Savage.
Gary, you guys are a few days into training camp now. What things have stood out to you so far about training camp, and what have been your biggest takeaways about the team?
I think just how in shape guys are, how prepared we are. You can't like really point out anyone that's like struggling physically to get up and down the court. Um, the ability for all of us to be really communicative towards one another, to really make sure everyone is on one accord, so we don't like spend so much time on little things. Coach is really big on like getting it right away and just moving on to the next thing, so we can be ahead of the other teams that are doing the same things we are right now. So I think the biggest thing is just us being in the shape we are right now is kind of give us an advantage.
Eric Wilson.
Hey, Gary, appreciate the time. Thanks for doing this. Could you just speak about some of the new guys that have joined the team this year? I mean, the Magic, you guys have brought back pretty much the majority of your team from last year, but can you speak to the impact that the new guys are making?
Yeah, I mean, it's just cool to see the young guys just be able to adapt really quick, and just coach giving them opportunity to learn, and it's like a test all the time. Like coach is literally like a professor or something, and just when he's always giving guys an opportunity to like be prepared for the test. So I think our young guys like Cole and just being able to they're making sure they're knowing. You can see Cole over talking to a coach or Ed, and just being very like want to know, so that way when coach pops that question out of nowhere, he's prepared. And a lot of the young guys are the same way. So it's just and Bacon is D Bacon is the same way. He's making sure 100% that he knows what's going on before he steps on the court, so that coach doesn't stop practice for just him.
Josh Robbins, The Athletic.
Yeah, hey Gary, good to see you. What was the free agency process like for you, and how do you feel being back?
It was pretty crazy, actually. Just it was so much uncertainty up until maybe 2 weeks before free agency, or a week before free agency maybe, and it was just I had no idea what to expect. I really didn't know how the process worked, because of this is my first free agency, and I switched agents midway through. I'd already been thinking about it before I even entered the bubble, so it was one of those things where I just kind of I talked to coach. I checked in with him, just to let him know, like, thank you for everything, that I was working out or whatever. And I think just the biggest thing I took from the bubble was the fact that coach has, like, he believes in me. I think that's the biggest thing. When you come into the league, it's hard to find your niche. So it's like, from when someone like coach who's has such experience, like, really, talks to me and just makes me feel like welcomed, and give me a lot of confidence. Through the whole process, I kind of in the back of my head like already knew, like, whatever it took, I want to go back to Orlando to make sure it made sense. So it was kind of crazy, the negotiation part. I let my agents and stuff handle all that stuff, and just the phone calls and texts. But I'm excited to be back. I love the city of Orlando. When we did have fans, it was always like I met a couple fans that were just constant at games. So, you just love the way that the city shows love to the Orlando Magic. So, I mean, I'm excited to get going here. I'm excited to be back. The guys, we're all just ready to get going.
Josh, did you have a follow-up?
Oh, yes. What were some of the areas that you sought to improve on during the off season?
One of the things I talked to Jeff about, actually in the bubble, he was like, focus on doing things that work right now, but moving forward in your career. Same with coach, is being confident, and to not just taking the open threes. Kind of, I don't know if you guys pay attention to how T. Ross and Evan, a lot of time coming off pin downs or catching, like, coming off curls and shooting. They see me shoot that way in my workouts, and they're like, at some point you need to translate that into your game. So I think that's the biggest thing I worked on this summer. The little off season I had was being a more efficient off the move shooter. Not off the dribble, but just coming off handoffs with the 5-man, or coming off DHOs, and just being able to really elevate and get my shot off without just waiting on corner threes or spot up threes. I think, and then just defensively, just being more in tune at like exactly what we're doing. Like a lot of our terminology, it's hard to understand from on defensive standpoint. It's just our downs, our weeks, our zones. So I think the main thing I did was watch so much film this offseason on what our calls are, the different coverages we had, just so I can be more prepared as soon as I knew, it was likely for me to come back here.
Josh Cohen, OrlandoMagic.com.
Hi, Gary. How much confidence did your play in the bubble and playoffs specifically give you going into this season?
A lot. I think the biggest thing was, going into the bubble, during the hiatus, I trained and worked one-on-one against TJ Warren the whole time. So, to see him go crazy like he did in the bubble, and then to know like, okay, this is a guy I'm training against every day, to then go in the bubble and do what I did in the bubble against the defensive player and the player of the year of last year, gives me like, confidence like no other. Just on the defensive end more than the offensive end, because, offensively, just being able to knock down shots against someone as long as Giannis is, and being able to make it difficult for him on the other end. My friends joke all the time about, how much, how many times he dunked on me, but, I just, you kind of take it to the chin because he was at the time, he was the best player in the league. So it's a lot of confidence going into the season, but there's still work to be done. You can't, I can only bring but so much of the bubble into this season. It's still, hungry guys in here trying to, get minutes and have expectations of, their time in the league. So I just kind of got to build off of it, use it to my advantage, and just, continue to grow.
Roy Perry, Orlando Sentinel.
Hey, Gary, good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
You had a real knack for offensive rebounding last year. I'm just wondering, how much do you feel like your defensive skills help you in that area?
I think just knowing a lot of times defensively where to be and when to crash. I think college, I led our conference for 4 years in offensive rebounding. I'm top 5 in rebounding in my college school, like my school or whatever. So I think it's just a natural knack I have now of just offensive rebounding. If I'm down there, then it's likely for me to get it. If you're just kind of standing beside me, I don't think it's good enough to keep me from getting it. And I think that's kind of my mindset when I'm offensive rebounding. I kind of almost play it off like, okay, we're just going to hang out here together. I'm probably going to get the offensive rebound.
Dan Savage, OrlandoMagic.com.
Gary, you touched on this a little bit already, but being dealt the task of guarding Giannis throughout a playoff series is no easy feat. What were some of your biggest takeaways and learnings from covering him for almost a whole series, and what did you get out of that as a player?
I think more than anything, you get to measure yourself as a professional athlete. I'm no MVP runner-up, but just my will and determined to not back down. Because if any point I would have backed down, coach would have had to go with a different lineup to throw at him. But the fact that I think I didn't back down, coach left me in and to that assignment. So I think more than anything, I think I have just to show the league that, you may say what you want to say, but, that Clark kid didn't back down to Giannis. But, as far as my game, it made me really work harder to be, want to be more of a threat to make our team more successful and harder to guard and harder to score against on the other end. I think we had to be so tight together like the whole time during that playoff series that, when we wasn't, you could see they were up 20 or whatever, but I feel like every game we came back together and we made it a game towards the end. But it just goes to show just, what we can do as a unit with the pieces when the pieces are clicking and mesh together.
Okay. If no one has any follow-up questions for Gary. Okay. Thank you, Gary. Oh,